Hello there, my name's Sue Shardlow. I am the Developer Community Manager here at Redis. Thanks for joining us today for This Week in Discord, where we take a look at what we've been talking about on our Discord server. So if you don't know what Discord is, it's a place where you can discuss your favourite things with other fans of that thing. So we have a Discord server. It is at discord.gg/Redis. It's private in as much as you won't find any of the posts if you Google, so they're not Googleable. But we allow anyone to join as long as you agree to and stick to our code of conduct. So we would love to see you in there. There's about 8,000 members in there, but don't worry, it's a really friendly place and you can come and have a look around and see what's going on before you decide to jump in and chat with us. So I was just saying to the others that are going to be joining you on this stream in a second that it's only been a week since we did the last stream, but I'm kind of feeling like it feels like ages since we did the last stream. And every time I do this, I feel like I've forgotten something major, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And I think it's part of doing live stuff that you always feel a little bit unprepared. But, you know, let's just go with the flow and see. It hurts my perfectionist self, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And I've got my 3 colleagues here to support me. So let's bring them into the mix. I'm going to ask them again, like I did last week, for them to bring themselves into the mix because it's a toggle on and off. And if I toggle them on and they toggle themselves, then they'll just pull themselves off the stream again. So Justin, Savannah and Simon, please join me in the mix here.
Hello.
Hello. How are you all today? All good. Justin's pixelated up a little bit. Savannah, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
Very good. Have you got a cat tail curled around your neck today?
Not anymore. He got camera shy. As soon as I pressed the add to stream button, he just jumped off, knocked a few things off my desk with him. It was fine.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, this is live and mostly unscripted, like 99% unscripted. Like we know what the questions are. But we've done a little bit of research and, you know, maybe got some code snippets and stuff, but we don't script out what we're going to say. And yeah, Savannah's cat came along, jumped up, and the tail just happened to be at the right place to curl around Savannah's neck. So yeah, Simon, how are you today?
All right, it's been a big week. So I've actually been quiet on Discord this week because I was out at a conference in person for the first time in 2.5 years. So I met a few people who hopefully some of them have joined our community and hopefully some of them are already in there. So if you were at GitEx in Dubai this week, hello and welcome to the community.
And there probably were a few people there because they were trying to make it the biggest like tech event in the world, weren't they? They wanted to get a record.
Yeah, I don't know if they hit it, but they were going for some world record attempt. So the thing was huge and they had like all sorts of different, there was an AI stream and a PyCon stream and a couple of generic IT type exhibitions as well. Yeah,
and what's really cool is when you meet people who use Redis, they tell you that they love it. They absolutely love it. It's just got this like, it's this thing about Redis. People really, really love it. And like, you met a few people like that, didn't you, Simon? So you ran a workshop and you did a talk and somebody came up to you and said that they were there specifically for your talk and stuff.
Yeah, which is funny because they were from a university and obviously we have our sort of university, you know, university.redis where you can take the courses. So it's kind of interesting to meet someone from, yeah, for want of a better word, a real university who's also teaching this. Because like when I did computer science, we didn't learn any commercial products because most of them didn't exist like way back. So.
You barely had computers. You were still like coding on an abacus and stuff, weren't you?
We didn't have the web or the internet as you know it. So yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have
Simon,
the web.
Did you use punch cards? Did you have to use punch cards?
No,
Okay.
Not quite. But no, I was from the era where basically you went to get the book from the library and like all the good pages already been ripped out.
Okay.
Oh, like, was that
my mom tells horror stories about punch cards and dropping her stack of punch cards.
Ooh.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that like a crash? A modern crash?
Oh yeah. Maybe we'll put a link to some good websites about punch cards for anyone who doesn't know what that is. But basically, that's how people used to code way back in the day. But yeah, definitely didn't have the internet then. Justin, how are you? You are now in crystal clear HD, my friend. So
Oh, it's great to hear. Yeah, I just had to get my foot from off the pipe. I'm good. I've been busy this week as well. I haven't been able to be on Discord as much as I want. I'm putting together an explainer and just finished up the script for another video. And there's also another video that I'm going to be working on. So there's going to be like 3 videos juggling with our video team just from me so far. So yeah, check out YouTube. Check out all of our videos, please. We put a lot of effort into them, and like I am now. And yeah, it's just another great way to like kind of look at code, understand what Redis is doing, and kind of approach application development from a different perspective. So if you're always watching me, watch Guy. If you're always watching Guy, watch Savannah. If you're always watching Savannah, watch Simon. You know, see people's different interactions and the way they access the code.
yeah, and see how different people explain different things. Some folks resonate more with you than others. But yeah, also, like, if any of you that are watching really want us to do some content on something, let us know. I cannot promise anything, but it's really good to have some inspo from the community. So hop onto Discord and let us know what you would really like us to cover. So, we may end up doing a video, we may do a live stream about it, or we might do a blog post. But let us know what you really, really want to hear about, or anything that you're stuck on, like something that you've never really quite got your head around. And one of us can hopefully explain it to you. Or we might find, actually, that is a really good question. It doesn't exist yet. That's a whole other ball game, and we'll talk about that later. So yeah, let us have a look at what's been happening on Discord this week. For those of you that aren't members, like I said, you can join free. I hope you've got the FOMO, because you should have. It's been a really good week. Let's have a look at the questions. So Savannah's going to take question 1. And this person said they've got a problem with the ft.search command in a Redis CLI. This works, but with a RedisTimeSeries client, I get an error. Do I have to use the FT API, or can it work with execute command somehow? And they did figure out the answer themselves. But Savannah, just talk us through this one, and then we'll show everybody the answer that they come up with.
They did, yeah. So the main thing here that they figured out on their own, I pointed out. So if you're on our Discord, you'll notice that sometimes we respond with things like, I'll check this out, because I haven't actually used the execute command function. I've used the FT API to do like the ft.search.find, all of that functionality with RediSearch. So I hadn't actually used the execute command function until someone brought this issue up. So I responded and I was like, hey, I'll check it out. My most likely thought, though, is that it's something with the escape characters, because you've got a single quote and a double quote. And I was like, that's where I'm going to check it out. So then they found some other things that will work. And as soon as you'll go ahead and click their answer, you can see that really what it needed, instead of a single string, was each of those arguments broken up. So if you take a look at, if you take a look at the source code for the execute command function, and I'll make that just a little bit bigger, you can see we are looking for a lot of arguments, or a few arguments, and a couple of options as well. So instead of that one single string for that whole command, you have to break it up into each of those different sections. Yeah, but so that execute command ends up working just fine. I don't know about you guys, but I know I've sometimes definitely gotten frustrated with the whole, like, this works in the CLI, or this works in one place, and I'm trying to do the exact same thing somewhere else. And whatever slight difference there is between syntax or how to pass in an argument, that can get really frustrating. So while ideally you'll be able to do everything however you want it, either way, with the execute command or the FT search functionality as a whole, this execute command function definitely can be used to sort of execute like those CLI commands, but from within a Python script. And I will kick my own screen off.
Cool. Thanks for that. And I just want to remind everybody that we don't mind if you ask questions. We love it when you ask questions. And sometimes in asking the question, I mean, I don't know how long it was between them asking and coming up with the answer. Sometimes in asking the question, it helps you to arrive at the answer yourself. It gives you a bit more clarity when you're explaining to somebody else. Or it might give you a bit of inspiration as to where to look for the answer. So yeah, always ask if you don't know, but it sometimes helps you to ask that question too.
And it always helps us because it means that we know, like, hey, whatever, this is whatever question's being asked, probably didn't have an immediately Googleable answer.
Yeah.
So it also helps us to know what you guys are asking. And like I said, this execute command, I hadn't used it before. So it gave me exposure to something that I hadn't used. And we're always down for learning.
Yeah, definitely.
Specifically with this question, I want to give a shout out to our Redis JSON, our new Redis JSON course, which covers RediSearch. So that's RU 204. We actually cover all the commands for search, but we also go over the Redis OM clients. So we'll actually take a look at Redis OM Python and some practical application examples that people can sort of check out and use as their, recipe book. So definitely check that out. RU 204 is it creating, updating, and indexing JSON at speed. So everything's done very quickly.
Yeah.
And a comment from our viewers, rubber duck programming. Oh,
yeah.
Rubber duck programming. Love some good rubber duck programming. If you're not familiar, it's the idea of just like talking a rubber duck through what you're doing. And very often, if you actually read line by line, you'll sort of realize, oh, that's not actually what I thought I was doing.
Yeah. And if you haven't got a rubber duck, then if you've got a dog or a cat, dogs love you. And they're like, yeah, I really, really will. I want to help you solve your problem. Cat would be like...
The cat's about as useful as talking to the empty room.
Cats are like, you're using object-oriented programming? Oh, get away from me.
You peasant. How could you? So you find something. It could be a living object. It could be an inanimate object. But yeah, always come to Discord and have a chat with us about Redis because that's what we love to talk about. Cool. Okay, second question then. So this person wants to know about putting sensitive information in key names, etc. How do they go about preventing people from seeing the values via the keys? So Simon and Justin are going to talk to us about this one.
Okay, so a bit of background here. So prior to Redis 6, you basically logged in as one user. So there was like a user, and that user was like the equivalent of root, if you're familiar with a Unix, Linux type system, which was you can do everything all of the time with no checks and balances. And it was kind of on you in your application to implement something better than that. So Redis 6 adds what's called access control lists, which gives you the ability to create named users that can do different things. So what somebody's doing here is, and one of those things is you can limit which keys a certain user can perform operations against. So if I'm user 1, I might see all the key, or I might be able to perform ops against all the keys that begin with user 1. And if I'm user 2, I might only be able to see or perform operations against all the keys that begin with user 2. And we can be fairly fine-grained about this. And the question basically boils down to, can everybody see what all of the keys are if they can't perform, even if they can't perform operations on them? And how do you get around that in the case where they can see all of those keys? So what I was going to do was quickly have a look at setting up some ACL users. So got a hopefully empty instance of Redis here. So we've got nothing in there. And I can do ACL who am I, so who am I logged in as? I'm in as the default user, which is essentially the only user that used to exist on Redis. And we can go ahead and make some other users. So I'm going to do ACL set user user 1, and I'm going to turn a password for that user on. I'm going to use password for it. And I'm going to say this is a kind of convoluted syntax, but it's really well covered in our Redis security course, and also there's a doc on redis.io. And I'm going to say this user can run all of the commands. So Redis commands are grouped, so you'll see an ACL group in each command on redis.io. So we're just going to say all of them, but we could limit things like this user could only be a write-only user, a read-only user. They can't run expensive commands, time complexity expensive, and so on. So we've created that user, and what you'll notice here is I got an OK back, and what I'm going to do is I'm still logged in as the default user, so I'm going to go and create another one, user2 on. Call that password as well and say that one can see user2 star, and we're going to say that can run all commands except I don't want it to run the keys command. So we've got a slight difference in our two users there, and I'll just do something here as well. So see, I've typed key star, I've got an empty database. If I press the up arrow, I get key star, so Redis CLI brings back the last command. And then you'll notice it goes to ACL who am I, so it skipped over those two ACL set user commands. So there's some element of security here that those aren't getting stored in the command history. I mean, obviously you wouldn't set up users on a live stream with passwords like this, but you all can't reach this Redis, it's local. So if I then do auth and I log in with user1 password, I'm now logged in as user1, so let's just do some stuff like set user1 something to A and set user1 something else to B. Oops. Typo, but you get the point now. So I went to set user2 something and I'm not allowed to. So my user2 can't, sorry, my user1 can't mess with user2 key space. So I am going to set user1 something else like that. And then I'm going to say to it, okay, what's in the database? And this user can see both of those. So if I then do auth user2 password, so I'm now in as the other user, and we do set user2 something to C and set user2 to something else D. And then if I try and get user1 something, I get an error because I'm not allowed to do that. If I then try and run the keys command, I'm not allowed to do that. So this user is prevented from seeing what keys are in the database. The original question was, can you kind of like limit the keys command so it can only see the keys that the user is allowed to access? And the answer to that at the minute is no, but that's kind of a really good idea, and I'll follow up on it. So if I go back to auth user1 password and we run keys here, this user can run the keys command, and you'll see it can see keys that were created by other people. So you should not put sensitive information in your key names if it matters, that some ACL users can see them and other ACL users can't, or you should limit access to commands that reference the key space, like keys and scan and so on. And this is probably not a bad idea anyway, because these are time expensive commands that you probably don't want to run in production anyways. So yeah, that was what I got. I know, Justin, you worked on the university security course. Did you want to just sort of say anything about what's in there?
Yeah. As per always, we always have a course that supports an interesting aspect of Redis. And yes, Redis Security RU330. It's like one of the first courses I produced. So there's a lot of beautiful, vibrant, helpful animations. And it contains special guest Jamie, who was the project manager for security at Redis. And yeah, it covers ACL lists in just a whole section dedicated to ACL. So not only should people have their own kind of ACL entry, but also anything that touches your database. So your applications, any endpoints, any external applications, backups, things like that. And there is a ton of things you can do as far as setting permissions. You can get very granular, like Simon said. We also check out TLS. We explain a lot of the encryption concepts. So it's not just, a technical deep dive. You actually get a lot of explanation going on, which is really great. And yeah, it's a very powerful course. It's a very thick course, but it's worth your time.
Yeah, I think it's a good time of year to take this course as well, because we're coming up on Halloween, and there are some Redis horror stories sections in there where Jamie kind of went all out with the props department and special effects with the video. So Check it out just for those, if nothing else.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to make, and it was also really interesting. I learned a ton because Jamie was the security expert, so he showed me a lot of scary things.
Nice. I feel like I want to take that course now just for those videos. So I want to give a quick shout out to Methalich and Valiant Runner, who are both watching on Twitch. Hello. And Valiant Runner has asked a question. Simon, while you were speaking and you're setting the users, they asked, are set user commands also not flush to log?
Don't know. I'm just going to have a quick look, but I would expect they're probably not, because that would make sense.
So yeah, like we said last week, when you ask these questions of us, we don't always know the answer off the top of our heads, and quite often we have to go away and do a little bit of research. So yeah, don't worry about asking your questions, because even the people at Redis don't know all the answers straight away. Should we come back to that one at the end? Do you want to keep looking while we...
Yeah, I think so. The other thing that I forgot to show that I will try and show now is, let me share my desktop. So I said that I was explicitly banning the keys command. What you can do as well is, if you want to stop users or enable users from doing certain types of thing rather than specific commands. So if we look at geoadd here, for example, which is literally a random command that I picked, you'll see there's this ACL categories thing going on here. And what that says is, if I set up a user that's allowed to do any of these or is banned from doing any of these, then they won't be able to run that command. And this is considered a slow command because it's basically not big out of one. So it's all relative. But, you know, we could be saying we don't trust this user to run things that might take some time, or we could say they're only allowed to run geo commands or not allowed to run geo commands, or they are or aren't allowed to run commands that modify the database. So there's some level of control here, and all of this stuff was further enhanced with Redis 7. So if you've got Redis 7, you've got a bit more control than you had in 6.
Cool. Okay. If you want to keep looking for that other thing, then just shout out at the end if you've got anything to add to that. Meanwhile, let's keep going. Let us look at the next question. Now, this was a good one, and it sparked quite a lot of good debate in Discord this week. So, time series versus streams aren't both very similar. Which one should I use for storing high-speed inserts and reads? Now, all of you have worked with streams recently. Justice made a time series explainer. Savannah does a weekly stream. Stream's a little stream. So, who wants to start with that one?
I can talk a little bit about time series. Also, this text snippet that was copied in. The sorted set data structure. The time series data is stored as a set of key value pairs in which the timestamp is the key and the data is a corresponding value. Yeah, that could be a thing, but we have the time series. So the problem with the sorted set is insertion. It's all about insertion. With time series, it's O1 for insertion because it's always going to be based off of time. So you insert all the way at the end. So time series is actually preferable to the sorted set. And time series is good. I mean, tip off my hat to Methalich. He actually outlined a lot of these things in the thread within this discussion. But time series is great for just pulling out data from the original data structure for visualization. So with my explainer, I was taking little air samples of my house in Oakland during wildfires. So if there was instantaneously bad air, I would get a notification to close the windows. It stinks outside. So yeah, time series. Yeah, see that's how bad it was. I could barely see to my screen. It's important with time series to realize that you don't do a whole lot of manipulation of the data. You just present that data usually to some other pipeline. So I love Grafana. We love Grafana. We being the Royal Redis love integrating with Grafana. So that's what we end up doing, and it consumes that time series. Stream is a completely different beast that is also great for other applications. And I'll let Savannah and/or Simon tackle that one.
Yeah, so I mean, streams is sort of what it sounds like, is where you're trying to process an incoming stream of data where things are sort of more continuously being added to it, and then you want to do something with it. So that's sort of where they sound very similar. Like, yeah, you're getting a lot of input and you want to do something with it. A few key differences are that like streams are not time series. Well, I mean, obviously, but they're not time based. Like when I add something to a stream, it'll be the next thing on the stream no matter what. If I try and add something to a time series and I, for whatever reason, and maybe like I went offline for a little while, but I recorded some time stuff and I want to go back and add that, it's going to have to go and find the spot to put all of those things, whereas streams will just always be continuous. Streams get into a little bit more of like consuming the stream and what you're going to do with that data. So we get into like consumer groups where you can have a bunch of different people reading off the same stream and doing stuff with all that data, and you can have them pushing it to another stream that like has a different, like has processed data already. You can have them pushing, you know, you can have one consumer group that's reading from a few different streams and pushing like aggregated data somewhere else. Streams has a wider variety of what you can put in a stream.
Yeah, I think with a stream, you can basically put any old set of name value pairs in there. With a time series, you can pretty much put a numerical value in there and then label it in a number of different ways. So yeah, streams sort of have two broad use cases. There's the sort of using them as a queue or a buffer in a microservices type situation. You can use them as a sort of time series because the stream IDs by default are timestamps, so you can ask a stream, give me everything that happened between those 2 time points, but you're not going to be able to say to it, give me the average value in this field in the stream between these 2 time points, whereas you can do that with time series, but you can't store non-numeric data in the time series. Streams are also really popular. I'll just throw this up there. We have a course for that, which is going to be like a recurring, guess what, we have a course for that. This is one of our most popular courses. And also, whenever we go out and talk about anything Redis, people ask us about streams. People sometimes do that because they're using like older code bases that use Redis PubSub, which is a way of broadcasting messages out to subscribers without having to know anything about who's listening. So you can do a sort of one-to-many type relationship, sort of like you see on this diagram in the video here. The thing with PubSub is it's like broadcast television or radio. If no one's listening, they don't hear it, they can't come back later and expect to get all of the data. Streams are persistent, they're a key in the database in Redis. So you can, for example, publish events like what the temperature is, or this door opened in this room, or Simon visited the following URLs on your website. And then a process that wasn't listening when those events were created can come back and replay them as many times as it wants and do something with them.
Cool. Yeah. We dropped a lot of links in the chat today because it seems like for every question there's a relevant course, which is really cool. And also dropped some links to some code that you can play with as well. So Simon's got a streams workshop. I've dropped a link to that in the chat. So please do go and have a look at that.
Yeah, I think as well, also check out our streaming. This is where it gets confusing. So we're streaming about streams. If you check out our streaming video schedule on Twitch and YouTube, you'll find that Savannah and me are currently doing things with Redis streams. So that is Tuesdays and Thursdays most weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, go to developers.redis.com/redis-live to find out when we're live on Twitch and YouTube. Essentially every day of the week, apart from Monday. There's kind of like a Justin-shaped hole in Monday on the screening schedule. No pressure there. But yeah, Tuesday, Savannah, Wednesday, Steve, Thursdays, Simon, and then on Thursdays also we are on Office Hours on Discord, which is not live on Twitch and YouTube. It's on our Discord server. And then Fridays we are doing This Week on Discord, and also Guy streams on a Friday usually, but do check out that schedule because folks are in and out of the office, so that's what we try to stick to, but some weeks it varies. So that's where you get the latest. Cool. Let us do the next question. So this person wants to talk about RediSearch Python query performance optimization. They were really, really pleased to see how fast it became. And yeah, let's talk about that. I think all three of you have got something to say about that one.
Yeah, so this was specifically in Redis OM and setting a batch size to an appropriate batch size. I meant to write some code for this, but I did not. So we're just going to talk about it. But basically, your batch size tells Redis how many things you want all at once. If you sort of just do like a .all, I want to say right now the default batch size is 10,000. Did someone correct me if I'm wrong?
I think it is. So the reason we have batch sizes at all is if you write a query that says, get me all of everything that matches everything, and there's like 10 million of them, two things, that's a lot of network. You probably didn't mean that, or three things. You probably didn't mean that, and Redis is single-threaded, so no one else is going to get anything out of Redis while that happens. So we break it down and be like, okay, we'll get you all of them, but we'll sort of feed them to you however many at a time, and each one of those is a separate network request.
Yeah, so being able to sort of set that appropriate batch size means that, you know, you're sort of being able to balance how many things you want at once with how many other things you're trying to do. And, you know, knowing how to adjust that is great and can increase your query speed by 20 times, which is super cool to see.
Yeah, I think the other part of this was also if you've got an index that's like indexing loads and loads and loads of things, or you've got JSON documents that are huge that match your index query, just asking Redis for the things that you need for the query you want. So if you're a SQL type person, so rather than doing select star, do select A, B, D, F, whatever it is you want. This can obviously save a lot of time because the query will run faster, but also all of that buffering and sending it across the network. And I don't know if Justin, do you want to say something about how we talk about that in, guess what, the course that we have that addresses this, regardless of which programming language you're using?
Right, yeah. So we actually use the CLI with RU204, but we also use all, you know, for our Redis OM clients. But there's also like, we go over how you actually access the options for FT, yeah, the search and the search capabilities of Redis Stack. So you actually go in there and set different values and things like that. And we actually show you how to return exactly what you want. You can change the naming. So instead of having, you know, I think for, I'll just use food trucks as an example because that's kind of on the top of my mind. Instead of having like @vendors, I can, having that as a return key to use, I can change it to food trucks or owners or people or whatever we want. So you can actually change the data around a lot when you get a return. And it's actually quite simple. You just say, hey, instead of everything, the whole blob, I just want specific pieces. And it's, yeah, it's a huge, huge speed up. And it's all covered in RU204 ad nauseum. So you see that a lot in the examples.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really pleased about with this course is our courses are previously broken down in sort of two buckets, if you like. Ones that don't use any programming language and just use the CLI. So if you look at 203, the RediSearch course that looks at searching over hashes, that's one of those. Or specific programming languages. So, you know, we have ones that address JavaScript and Java and Python. This course is one of those where we put all of the languages into the course, and we got some C# in there as well. So it's the first course that has anything that addresses .NET folks, which segues nicely onto the next question. But I want to be very clear as well that to take this course and be successful with it, you don't need to know all of the languages or even any of them because the exam questions aren't language specific.
Yeah, and also I want to give a shout out to RU101 because, you know, we've mentioned all the other courses now. Again, don't worry about which languages you do or don't know for RU101 Introduction to Redis Data Structures because guess what? You don't need to do any coding. It's very much an intro. So yeah, if you're just getting started with Redis, or you've been using it a while and you just want to refresh or see if there's any bits that you've missed, because obviously that person who posted that last comment that we featured was posting, they weren't really posting a question, they were telling us about something great that they've discovered. So yeah, I'm sure there's something that you'll find in there that you didn't know before. And if not, you know, the use case is really cool. It's like the Olympics, but it's you know, it's this big sporting event, and you get to use geolocation and all of that good stuff in there as well. And as for posting questions or posting comments, as educators, we really live for those light bulb moments. So, you know, we were really happy to see that somebody was playing around with Redis and they tried to do something, and then they discovered that they were able to do it in a different way that really pleased them. So we were really happy to see that. So yeah, you don't feel like you have to come and ask a question. If you've discovered something, feel free to post it, because chances are that somebody else hasn't discovered it yet either. And like Savannah said earlier when she was reading out that question a couple of questions ago, that she had never used the command that that person had talked about. So yeah, she found something new there as well. So you'll definitely be helping somebody whether you ask a question or post a comment in there. Cool. Let us go on to the final piece then. Like Simon said, talk of .NET, which segues us nicely into the next piece. So in Discord, Steve Lorello, who is our .NET developer advocate on our team, posted a nice little shout out about Redis OM for .NET. Now, Redis OM is a client library, and we have it in different languages. So we've got JavaScript, .NET, and Java and Python. And Steve wrote the .NET Redis OM. So that's been out for a few months now, and all the code is available in GitHub. It's all open source. If you go to github.com/redis/redis-om-.net, then you'll find it. So if you are using these libraries or any of the other open source software that we have, if there is a feature or any problem, any bugs that you find in there, then you can feel free to open an issue. So somebody has opened an issue that specifically I want to show you in a moment. But what Steve wanted to shout out was that the latest little release, the latest little version release of Redis OM for .NET only featured contributions from the community, which is really cool. So he did not actually code anything in this thing. So he approved the PRs and merged them in, but all of the good stuff came from the community. So he gave a nice little shout out to those community members in there. So let us just quickly show you an example of something that somebody raised. So somebody using Redis OM.NET, and you can see the pathway up there. If you get stuck, so go github.com/Redis, and then you'll find it. So they posted an issue here. So they've been trying to use it, serialized with the wrong decimal separator, and they wrote out their issue. And then he had a little, Steve had a little conversation with that contributor. And Steve said, okay, well, somebody else has got a different thing that's allied to it. And long story short, what happened was Steve asked for a little contribution from the contributor, asked them to test it out on their machine. Did it work? Yes. And ended up merging both of those good things in. And now this has a little bit of a link back to Hacktoberfest, because while this particular issue was not a Hacktoberfest one, because the contributor raised the issue in the first place, it wasn't raised by us and put out there to the community. Steve thought, okay, you know, I can give you a Hacktoberfest tag for that. So that contributor earned themselves a Hacktoberfest tag. So let's talk a little bit about Hacktoberfest in case any of you good folks have no idea what I'm talking about now. So Hacktoberfest is a month-long festival celebrating open source and encouraging people to get involved, maybe for the first time, or to continue being involved in open source. So it's run by the company DigitalOcean, and during the month of October, companies and individuals, anyone who maintains a repo, is encouraged to put out issues for the community to solve. So we here at Redis are taking part for the 2nd year in a row, and you can find all the information relating to our participation in this project at redis.io/community/Hacktoberfest. And what we've done is we've opened up a range of different issues for all of you good people to come along and have a look and work on. So what DigitalOcean do is they incentivize people to take part by saying, if you open 4 eligible pull requests, I won't go deep into the eligibility. It's quite simple, but have a look at the DigitalOcean page to find out. And they get merged by the maintainer and marked as accepted. Then they will give the first 40,000 contributors a t-shirt or a tree planted in their name. So that's the incentive that DigitalOcean make to you as contributors. Redis does not get involved in any of that. So all we are doing is we're putting out the issues, we're marking them as accepted, and then it's between you and DigitalOcean to sort out the swag between you. So we have a range of different issues available, and you can find the link on the page that I told you about that we're looking at now, redis.io/community/Hacktoberfest. If you click on the list of current open issues, it will take you to GitHub, and you can find, let me make that a little bit bigger. You can find a list of all our open issues. Some of these are allocated. We are trying to keep them moving. So if we're not hearing from people in a few days, we are sort of saying, how are you getting on with this? And, you know, life happens. Sometimes you commit to something, you can no longer do it. If that's the case, then we can reallocate it to somebody else. So go along and have a look at that. We will be adding more through the month for you to get involved with. But what I also wanted to say was, with Steve's thing that I talked about in the first place with the new version, some of the things that he shouted out there were some examples that people made showcasing what you can do with Redis OM NET, which are included in this repo. So they're in the examples folder in this repo. So all of those good people got a little shout out there from Steve. I think that, did I miss anything out on Hacktoberfest? Because I feel like I've been living and breathing it for the last 2 full weeks. And I might have not said something that to me is completely obvious, but to other people isn't.
I think other than just to say, again, you don't have to know a specific programming language to contribute something. We have things across a range of things that include front-end development for some of our team demos that could do with being a little bit better than they might otherwise be. So don't assume you're diving into like the core Redis, the product code base in C to do this and you need C skills. That's very much not the case.
Yeah, I always forget that bit. Yeah, so don't start stressing out that, you know, you're contributing to this major piece of software that everybody in the world, yeah. The issues that we've put out are very valuable because they help people to use Redis, but they're not on the main code base. So a lot of them are examples, or they're enhancements to demo apps that we've got, the enhancements to the examples on the own clients, like I said. And what I did forget to say was we have a dedicated channel in Discord for Hacktoberfest. So if you join our Discord server, discord.gg/Redis, then you can come find the Hacktoberfest channel. And if you've got any questions about it, like we can't debug your code for you because I come and defeat your dread. But if you've got any general questions about Hacktoberfest or you want to find out where to get more help, feel free to come in there. And what we are doing as well, if you have a PR merged by us, then we will give you the Hacktoberfest role in the Discord server, and you will appear here on the right-hand side underneath the certified Redis geek. That is a whole new, whole different ball game. But yeah, you'll be quite near the top, near the admins, near the staff, and near the Redis geeks. So I tried to put you as high up as possible. So you can see the 2002 Hacktoberfest person that's online and the 2001 one as well. That's what we offer to you. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about Hacktoberfest. Has anyone else got anything they want to add about anything?
No.
Hello, thanks for joining.
Oh, Hernandez, hello. Thanks for saying hello, because we know that people are watching, and I don't want to pressure anyone to say hi, but it's so nice when people say hello to us. Cool.
Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to sell other than I'm back on Thursday with what became a sort of periodic weekly live stream, but hopefully we'll now have a run of actually being a weekly live stream due to less traveling around and other events.
Yeah, it's coming to that part of the year where it's it's, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, it's getting a bit cold and dark and people are staying in a bit more. So yeah, I think you'll be seeing a bit more streaming generally in the coming weeks. Anyone else want to add anything?
Stay tuned for new videos. Hopefully I'll have them out before October's end. Yeah, it's going to be an explainer on Redis JSON, so the updated JSON path syntax that we're using. And I'm going to also be dispelling some common myths that we have heard about Redis from Discord and from YouTube comments and whispered in hushed hallways and everywhere. So I'm going to just basically go over a lot of the biggest myths that I've heard and kind of dispel those with some truth. So yeah, stay tuned. Subscribe to YouTube so you can actually get notifications. And I'll plaster it all over Discord because I love our videos. So.
Cool. Oh, Captain Codeman. Now, Captain Codeman, are you the same Captain Codeman that is a certified Redis geek? I would love to know. Because when I just showed you the Discord on screen, the one certified Redis geek that's online currently is called Captain Codeman. Could it be the same person, or is it just a coincidence that we have two Redis fans with exactly the same name?
It is.
Yes, that is you. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Methalik as well. Thank you for joining us, R. Hernandez and Valiant Runner. Cool. Well, we will be back at exactly the same time next week. So until then, look after yourselves, everybody. Don't forget to check out Hacktoberfest. Join us on Discord to post your questions or comments, and we will see you in a week's time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.